Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are on another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Get my tongue in the right place there so I could say it right. Good morning, Peter.
You got it. Good morning, Bill, and hello, everybody.
Here we go. So today's episode is number 390, Peter, 390. We're getting close to that 400.
That's right.
And every week I think to myself, am I going to shut the podcast down at 400 or not? Especially lately because the downloads have been low. So I think after 400 episodes talking about lease options and subject twos, and maybe people are getting tired of it. Maybe not. I don't know.
Hey, Bill, did you ever think they understood and they understand it now? Maybe they get it. Maybe they're all set.
Maybe they're doing a lot of deals and we don't know it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here is today's podcast episode title. Ready? Think outside the property. Unique, creative real estate deal structuring. Here's the description. I think it would be safe to say today you should throw out what you know and think creative real estate actually is. In this single episode, we may have to rewrite the playbook we have been using. This is not just stepping outside of the box, but more like catapulting outside the box. In this episode, we're not just talking about the usual way of doing deals. We are going to look at some super creative and different ways to do things with your sellers. Get ready to hear some underground and advanced ideas on how to make multiple profits with your deals because of minor tweaks in the deal. Creative real estate is not all about the money. And today you will hear why this matters and how it helps you get extraordinary deals that are like the golden geese that lay golden eggs month after month so you can be financially free and live life on your terms. We want you to listen. I'll give that to you again. I had to breathe. We want you to listen today while thinking big, thinking differently, and not being afraid to walk on new turf for you. Sound enticing? I hope.
Oh, yeah. Just a matter of like, now where are you going with it? now what? So we sit here and go like, okay, Bill, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I want you to know that you have just stepped onto Bill's planet, which simply means that we're going to think like me today, not think like rookies. We're gonna. I'm giving you a disclaimer right now. If you're driving or exercising or whatever you're doing while listening to this podcast, it will not work. Because here's the reason why. It is an advanced strategy I'm going to talk about today. I don't normally do things like this because it takes too much time to answer the questions once I'm done. And I'm not being arrogant. It's just that I love math. Math is what my life is centered around, right? I won't remember your name, but I'll remember your phone number. Okay, that's just how I am. So today, what I promise you is going to happen is I'm going to ramble through numbers, and you may not get it the first time. So you might have to listen to the podcast a couple times. More importantly, what I did is I do all this math in my head, which I thought everybody in the world does, but I have found out that's not true. I'm definitely unique about that. And I'm not, again, bragging. It's just these are things that I found out in life, mostly from you, telling me these things. And because a true friend tells you the truth, right? Peter tells me the truth.
But so, I like about it.
Yeah, no, well, you don't have to be polite about it. If it is, it is, right?
Well, that's how we both roll. Bill tells me to.
So here's the thing. In the description, there's a link there for our Creative REI Replay calculator. So you can go in there and you don't need to like memorize all these numbers. You can put them in the calculator and play around with them on each one of your deals. So you don't have to do the long math like I'm doing, but I'm going to explain the theory to you today. Sean has been after me. Sean is my partner in Creative REI Replay. One of them, there's 4 partners there, but Sean is one of them, has been after me to make a calculator for this exact deal structure, which I probably will soon. And once you go through today's podcast, you'll understand why. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you leave us a comment, all that kind of good stuff. And let's get going. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
So my first question to you and the listeners are, do you think it's absolutely horrible if a house is worth $380,000 and you pay $420,000?
With what I know now, no, it's not.
Okay.
Otherwise, a number of years ago, I think like can't.
Yeah.
That's just the math ain't right. No.
Right. All right. So what we've been binging on doing deal structures, and this deal structure we're talking about today is a free and clear property. I don't talk about it a lot because, first of all, they're not easy to find. So don't think you're going to be doing 5 of these deals a month, because you're not going to be doing that. You're lucky if you do a few a year, and that's if you do a lot of outflow. Realize this, that a free and clear owner is a very specific thinker. What happens is a free and clear owner either has one of 2 things or one of a couple things that happens to them. Number one, they've been paying on the mortgage for 30 years. So this is like their big Christmas savings account. You know, you pay for 12 months, you go get the money, you go buy everybody their gifts on month 12. Right? So they saved for this. So this is like a savings account to them. So they view this house as a savings account. And then someday or some part of their life or some catastrophe or something happens or something generous happens or whatever happens in their mind, they click and they say, oh, I want to go to the bank and get my money out. Meaning that they want to sell their house and get all their cash.
Yep.
Right? So these are savvy sellers. They are not your typical motivated, just throw the house at you like subject to or foreclosure or probate or anything like that. These are usually savvy people. Okay, they are usually paying attention to all the decimal points and they know what they're doing and they're very clever. The second way that they get a house free and clear is just like what I was talking about, is a probate deal. Unfortunately, in my experience, I have done a lot of probate, and I learned a topic about probate that I didn't expect to learn, that nobody teaches, by the way, on how to do probate deals, because the real reason is because you can't find probate leads. You can't buy probate leads. Now, people like PropStream said they have deceased lists, and people try to disguise the list, but the truth of the matter is a probate list is formed at the probate court in what they call the day book, which is when the people come in and register or pull a probate file to start a probate. And that's the only way that you can find them. And you need to know the person's name that passed away to understand the file, to get the file. So the whole probate system is predicated on the person that passed away, right?
Sure.
So if you don't know, you could know the address. Now if you're driving by a house and you see a vacant house and you go down to the city hall and you check the tax records and the deed and you find out that that it's owned by John Smith, and John Smith passed away, then you got a shoe in. But you're not going to be able to make a living across the country doing that type of a lead, which is why most people don't teach probate, because getting the probate leads is the most difficult part. Now, I will say, because I'm off on a little bit of a tangent, I will say this: the harder it is to find a deal, the bigger the deal. Okay, meaning profit.
Yep.
Right. The harder you can find it, and the least amount of people that can figure out that the house is for sale, that means that's the best deal you could do, because they don't have a lot of people knocking their door down giving them offers.
Right.
It's what cracks me up about vacant houses.
Mm-hmm.
Wholesalers go after vacant houses, and it's like, well, there's 10 million wholesalers looking at about three vacant houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they make up for it by selling them to each other.
Don't get me started on that.
Well, I can go on my own. One guy sells it to the next guy. He sells it to the next guy. They try to make 5,000 off of everybody. Like, no.
Yeah, and the problem is that not many of them actually have the money. So by the time you get to the person that has the money, there's a lot of hands in the till.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that being said, when I go over this math today, I don't want you to think that this is the strategy. Which, by the way, I want to kill your thoughts right now. If you're listening to me, I want to kill your thoughts, because what makes me different than anyone else that teaches creative real estate, because I've been asked that, especially when it comes to Subject to and Pace Morby. I feel like I slaughter that. I mean, he's a good kid, and he does a lot of deals, and he's worth a lot of money, probably a lot more than I am. But I do my deals different than him. He's a marketer first and then a real estate guy, and I'm the other way around. I'm a real estate guy and then a marketer first. So he's not been through a crash yet. So we'll see what happens when things crash and property prices go down, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how good his deals were. And my heart goes out to him. I hope they were great deals and he stays a millionaire. Mm-hmm. So the next thing is that what makes me different is that I never focused on one type of a deal. My idea was to just go cast the net like I was fishing. And when I bring the net in, I keep the fish I like and I throw back the fish I don't like. And the idea of having 7 core strategies for me means that no matter what the situation the seller gives me, I can give them an offer. Mm-hmm. And I could not only give them one offer, but if you follow my system, you would go up through the hierarchy. You always start at the lowest one, the highest profit for us first, as you mentioned, right? And you work your way up the hierarchy until you find something that strikes a core with the seller. Last thing I'm going to say before we get into deal structuring is last week, or on episode number 389, we introduced the formula. Do you remember the formula, Peter?
The formula for what?
For making a deal?
Yeah, it was the math plus the emotional desire. That one?
Deal. Yeah. So it's the correct math, right? The correct math plus the emotional desire of the seller will make you a deal. If you plug in those variables, then you will make a deal. So what has to happen sometimes is you have to go up. So if you start on the hierarchy of my little chart, which if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, you'll find that, or it's in Creative REI Replay if you're in there. It starts, the hierarchy starts with a slot deal with 0% equity, an option deal with 10% equity, rent to own, which is 15% worth of equity, subject to, which is 20% worth of equity, rehab retail, which is 30% worth of equity, wholesale is 40% worth of equity, and the free and clear is 100% of equity. So you kind of use that scale to plug in the formula, which is the correct math, and the emotional desire of the seller will make the right deal. When you get all those pieces put together, they say yes. Okay, so here we go. You ready?
Yep. Ready to go.
Let's just jump right in, because I'll just keep talking and not really maybe I bore you.
So so when you're doing numbers, should people like write these things down to try to keep track? Would that help?
If they want, yeah.
Yeah, no, because it can go, number. Then something could be based on the first number. You got to do some math. So if you're home,
I'm going to try to explain this. I'm going to try to keep it, so everybody can understand it. It's not like that super hard. And there are people out there that know how to do math. So, so the seller's asking $420,000. Okay, so first comment I want to make is, if you've been following me, my different deal structuring, and they're asking $420,000, and you don't know how, and they don't want to do this deal that I'm talking about, you could do a slot deal with them, a sandwich lease or option transfer at the 420. Okay. It doesn't matter that the house is free and clear. If it's worth 420 and you think you can get 5 or 10% more than that for your profit, then that's what you should do. But before we go there, we're going to talk to them about this deal. Okay, this is a free and clear deal. This is a special, very specific type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to add here definitions. So on Bill's Planet, remember this podcast is 100% for me, not for me, but it's like I'm not like worrying about rookies. I'm just going to talk like we're at a coffee table with a couple guys that do a bunch of deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got a question. I'm new to creative financing. I like how you break it down into easy, digestible parts.
Judah.
Thanks, Judah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to break it down today. So the first definitions I want to lay out here is the definitions are owner financing and seller financing.
Mm-hmm.
They are not the same. They are not synonymous. They're not the same words to me.
Mm.
Owner financing means the house is 100% free and clear and anything rolls.
Mm.
Anything rolls. Whatever your mind can come up with, whatever imagination you have, whatever you can think of, whatever numbers, whatever you can convince the seller to do is a wild, wild west show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't like to do that. I like to keep things structured so you can understand them. But that is owner financing.
Yep.
Seller financing is when they have equity. Equity is synonymous with profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have a $150,000 house, the house is worth $200,000. They're asking for $175 because they want $25,000 worth of profit.
Mm.
The $150,000 is not going to change because that's owed to the bank. You're not changing that. I mean, you could short sale, but we don't even talk about those because that's ridiculous these days. That barely happens in today's world with all the equity, right? All the appreciation since COVID.
Sure.
So that means you got $25,000 that the seller's asking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's seller financing, that $25,000 in my head. So you're going to work out, well, I'll give you a $25,000 note, no interest, no payments for 5 years. When my buyer cashes me out, I'll give you the $25,000.
Yep.
Or I'll give you $158 a month for towards the $25,000 above and beyond the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In other words, the seller is going to finance their profit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's seller financing. So owner financing is on a free and clear property. Seller financing is their profit after they pay off the mortgages and whatever liens they have on the house.
Right.
Is that clear?
Yeah. The owner financing is because the guy fully owns the property. Seller financing, he's helping you with some arrangement, but he doesn't completely own it. He's not an owner fully. He has the deed and all that, but he owes money on the house. So we can call it seller financing. He's helping us.
So technically the definitions are this way.
Mm.
In both situations, the seller's going to take a note back because you owe them money. They're going to take monthly payments and get a note.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, as owner financing, they're going to be in first position. Seller financing, they're going to be in second position or more.
Right, because they owe the bank money, and the bank is always first.
Right. Or if they have more than one loan on it, they might be third or fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes FHA mortgages will give you they'll give you the money and down payment mortgage. So you'll have to be third because that's first and second, and then you'll have to be third.
Yeah.
So that's why I break out the definitions of owner and seller financing, because owner financing, owner will be in first position, just like a bank, and seller financing, it's going to be second, third, or fourth position. So it's a different type of a role with the money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a different way to treat it.
Yep. Makes sense.
Okay. So hopefully that's clear. In this particular case, in this deal, we're talking about owner financing. We are talking about the seller writing us a note and actually being in first position.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the house is worth $380,000, but he's asking $420,000 and he's stuck on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I have noticed is when somebody's stuck on their price and they're hell bent on it and they are like not willing to move $5.
Uh-huh.
They're like a racehorse with blinders on. They're just after their money.
Mm.
They have no idea that you can walk around the back of the house and go in the back door and rob the whole house.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying you rob anybody, but my point is there's two ways to make money with real estate, and that's with equity, buy low, sell high, or with cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular seller's point of view, where he wants $420,000 and he's not willing to budge, then that's okay. You just keep rolling along, right? Because you're going to make your money with cash flow, not with the equity.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the fact, if you went and got a mortgage for $380,000, if he would let you actually buy the house for $380,000, and you paid 4% or 5%, well, now it's 8%, but if you pay 3, 4, 5% or 8%, whatever the current interest rate is, on a 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay 2.5 times, if not more. With 8%, it's going to be almost 3 times the amount of money that you paid. So if you paid $100,000 for a house at 8% mortgage, you're going to, by the time you pay off 30 years, you're actually paying $300,000.
Right. So paying $420 is like a gift.
So in this particular case, if you're going to pay $40,000 over, is it really that big of a deal?
No, but we wouldn't sell it the next day. The whole point is we're going to hang on to it, which you're going to explain, I'm sure. And then over time, the money comes in and everything evens out. We make money. The guy gets paid. He's happy. We're happy.
Right. Now, are we going to make money off of equity?
Well, I thought you did, like in the end when you cash out, there's some equity left, right? Isn't there?
Right. Yeah. So in this particular case, let me rephrase the question. So what are we going to sell the house for? If we pay $420, what are we going to sell the house for? Because there's two types of equity, right? Let me while you're thinking about that, there's two types of equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's either the actual equity, which equity, the definition of equity means the amount of money that comes to the closing table minus all the expenses and liens.
Yep.
Right? And that's the equity is synonymous or equal to the word profit.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way you can get a profit in a business is if you take income, cash brought into the business, and that means credit cards and checks and all that stuff, but money brought into the business minus all your expenses, you have a gross income and a net income. Net income is what owner spends. That's pocket money. That's how much he could spend for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Gross income is usually, he's got to pay payroll and, he's got to pay taxes and insurance and all that kind of stuff, right? So they're different numbers. But in this particular case, in real estate, we're talking about the net income. So the equity is actually the net profit.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say to somebody, well, my house is worth $600,000 and I only owe $300,000 and I got $300,000 worth of equity. You can't say that because somebody's not writing a check for $600,000. Mm-hmm. You may get to the end and they'll write a check for $650,000. They may get to the end and they might only write a check for $525,000. So the true definition of equity is how much money is at the closing table minus all the expenses.
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just realize that. So there's that type of equity. The other kind of equity is the kind of equity that we can actually build into the deal. We can actually build equity into a deal. Mm-hmm. And that's always done with time. You can't build equity into a deal without time.
Right.
So those are two types of equities there are. There's one that's a natural equity, and then there's a man-made equity.
Right.
Right. So we call that synthetic equity. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to buy this house for $420,000, and we are going to sell this house for $420,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting bored with me talking right now, which is possible because sometimes I bore people, I want you to know you should listen to the rest of this podcast because we're going to buy for $420,000, sell for $420,000, and I'm going to show you how to make $146,000.
420 minus 420 equals what?
146,000.
I like your math, Bill.
Yeah. 420 minus 420 on Bill's planet equals $146,000 profit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the only trick that it's not tomorrow morning, it's when, but it's 146,000. Yeah, this is in theory. You've done these.
Yeah.
I know you have.
So here's the deal. So we're going to keep moving because we're a half an hour in, and I want to make sure we cover everything. So the taxes are $600. I'm sorry. Taxes on this property are $6,000. I rounded the numbers so I can talk about them. These numbers, realize I either rounded them up or rounded them down. You know, taxes I think on this house are $5,800 and change or whatever. So I rounded it up to $6,000. Insurance is $2,400. I have to tell you, in today's world, Peter, in today's world, at least in my world, you should not plan on insurance less than $2,400 a month. I'm sorry,
Really?
a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get this question a lot when I take over my deals, especially my lease options and my subject twos. Do I insure them myself? I absolutely do. I mean, I have a property. I can't believe it. In 30 years, a year ago Christmas, I had a tree fall on a house, and it was a $115,000 claim. And now this year, a week or 10 days after Christmas, I had a house catch on fire, and now it's a $50,000 or $60,000 claim.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in the middle of those claims. I have a lease option person in there that paid me 10 grand that if I'm not careful, they'll want their money back. Right now, even though they started the fire, right? You want the insurance to be in your own name. Okay, or your entity's name, or however you do business. You want to control the insurance. Okay. So $6,000 for taxes, $2,400 for insurance. That breaks down to $500 a month for taxes and $200 a month for insurance. That's $600 a month right off the bat. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell this house for $420,000. Right. Today's current interest is 8%, so I used 8%. I know it's going down and it's like 7 point something, but I just use 8%. So if I put the taxes, the insurance, and the principal and interest in there, I get a payment of $3,781.81. So it's $3,781.81.
That the buyer's going to have to pay.
Yeah. Now here's the thing: the buyer, if you're going to sell the house for $420,000, you want to make sure that the buyer has a payment equal of or more than what his mortgage will be once he purchases.
Yeah.
Because if you use Rentometer, which is a gross thing in my mind in our business, I can't stand it when people tell me, well, I use Rentometer. Well, Rentometer doesn't mean shit because we're not landlords. What we do is we sell houses and give people an intermediate mortgage, aka a lease, until they get qualified for a bank loan. So we're not renting houses. So get that out of your head. If you want to rent houses, go listen to Dave Lindahl or Hugh Jones or what's the other one that we had? The crazy guy, the military guy.
Well, there was Lance Edwards.
Lance Edwards. Go listen to those guys, and they'll show you how you can go get bank loans, and you could do it. You could use Rentometer and all that kind of stuff because they're very good at it. Okay, so my point is that we're not renting; we sell them the house. So you want the mortgage payment to be equal to or more than how much their mortgage payment would be. Otherwise, they will never cash you out. No, I mean, if you got a mortgage payment, so this house, we're saying this house is $3,781 for a mortgage payment. If we rented to them for $2,500, would they ever want to go get a mortgage and want to pay $3,781?
Not very practical, no.
It's not human nature to do that.
Nope.
Right? They may say they want to do it, but they'll never do it because every month is another month that they don't have to pay that extra $1,200, $1,300.
That's right.
Okay. So here's what I do, just because, and I tell them, and by the way, this has a very special calculator that I use for this number. This is a very special calculator. You have the same calculator. You don't even know you need to go to the store to get it.
Yeah.
It's called out the ass number. I just pull it right out of my ass. Okay. Pardon the French, but I just pull it right out of my butt. Right. So you got that calculator. You can go ahead and use it too. So I add $250. And when I do the lease option with with the buyer, when I sell it to my buyer, I tell them that you're paying this high amount to the big fat landlord, and you can change it when you get a mortgage. You can reduce your mortgage by a couple to $300 if you do that. So you're paying more to me because you're renting. And it's done intentionally to motivate you to go get a mortgage. I just tell them the truth. And you know what they say all the time?
What?
Where do I sign?
Yeah.
They never give me a hard time about it, right? If you have question in your voice and you don't believe in what you're saying, then that's when you'll get trouble. But when you're certain and you've done this as much as I have, and you set the pace correctly, this is like children. You know, if you set the pace correctly with your children when they're young, then they're great kids. If you don't, then maybe not. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if we take what I did is I took $3,781, I added the $250. It came out to be like $4,031 or something like that with some odd numbers. So I'm going to say our income is $4,000.
Sure.
Okay. Now here's the magic. Here is the magic of this deal. This is the hidden jewel. This is what makes this deal happen. You are going to pay the seller a principal-only payment. So just so I can take a rest and not listening to me, Peter, all the time, why don't you explain that?
When you do anything with a loan or credit card, you're paying down the cost of whatever you bought plus interest. So we know interest, but the part that goes directly toward the item is called principal. So that gets rid of the actual debt as you go. And in the mortgage payment, if it's $1,000, it's $800 to interest, $200 to principal. And it gets better over time because you owe less, so they charge less interest because you owe less. Like a credit card. The more you pay it off, there's less you have to pay on it.
So John Patterson says that's a perfect nugget for the insurance. I'm gonna thank you, John, very much. I know John. He's been around for quite a while. He loves this podcast. He's got my software, all that kind of stuff. So, but I want to say something. I want to say this. It's a pitch on me if you're new here. Mm-hmm. One thing I don't do is lie. Now, a lot of people say that, and people say when you say you don't, when you say I don't lie, that means you're a liar.
Yeah, but you've never said it before.
So, my point is that I can't afford to because I have too many deals and I can't remember everything. So what I do is I make sure I write everything down in my files. If I could photocopy somebody's face on a copy machine, I put it in my file. My point in telling you this is that when I give you these deals and I talk about this is not, I still do deals to this day. Okay. Everything I create is for me first, like the creative REI replay software is for me first. Even though we've had a little bit of trouble with it the last few months, you and we finally got it fixed because the trouble wasn't the software. The trouble was one of my partners. Right. Wow. So it wasn't the software. So the point is this. When I say stuff like that, it's directly from experience. So that's why you like it, John, is because the two examples I give you are experience. So you're welcome. All right, so let's go back to the deal. So the deal is this, is we're going to pay principal-only payments.
Right.
So I'm going to explain this now. Instead of going off on a short, like I normally do on my webinars, give you a short, like, explanation, I'm going to just give you real numbers.
Sure.
Now, this is something I made up myself because I had to teach my acquisition manager how to do this. So I had to make these things up myself because nobody was teaching these. I don't know if anybody else teaches them, but I know definitely I do. And I'm the only one that will teach you this that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in a house, and this is the reason why I had to come up with these, because honestly, I bought a lot of subject to. I bought owner finance deals. And I would sit in the house. Now you have to realize I sat in 12 to 15 houses per week for years. And I lost track. And keep saying it 3 or 4 years ago. I stopped counting like 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago when I thought about it the other day, right? Mm-hmm. And at that number, it was like 4,300 or something, 4,000 or 4,300 houses I had sat in. Mm-hmm. I'm talking nose to nose, toe to toe. And there is no way that you can lie to somebody or say some kind of bullshit that they don't throw you out of their house. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's what happened. I had my special calculator with me. I was sitting on it, right?
Your butt.
My,
Your
I
butt.
was sitting on it, right? Out the butt calculator. Because what would happen is I would get somebody that would tell me, yeah, they would do owner financing with me on a free and clear house. How much will you pay me per month?
Oh.
And I just pull a number out my butt, thinking that I'm making big money. I'm like, oh my God. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, when I get the house sold and the money starts coming in, I'm like, how am I only making $120 on this house per month?
Yeah.
Or 180, and it made me realize I did not have a formula to tell the seller in the house that I could use my calculator, because I had a calculator with me, that I could use a calculator to give them their payment.
Yep.
So I made up this thing called the MAP, which is like a roadmap, right? It's the roadmap to their payment. And it stands for maximum allowable payment, which comes off of Ron LeGrand's. I don't know if Ron LeGrand made it. When I go to Ron LeGrand's office, or anyways, because I was in Florida. I go back and forth in Florida, and I used to go to seminars with people that said they taught Ron LeGrand all these numbers. So I don't know if he made the number or if it's somebody else, but he made it popular.
Yeah, but he had maximum allowable offer, didn't he?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, so he uses Mayo, maximum allowable offer. So I kind of just not copied, but I kind of spun it off of that. So it's the maximum allowable payment, right?
Yeah.
AKA, this is the most you can pay before you start losing money.
Yeah.
Here is the formula. It is the income times 85% minus the taxes, insurance, and HOA if there is one. So let me explain that. So the 85% means that we use a 15% reduction in the payment. Are you with me? So 15% means that we're using that for what we call a vacancy factor in apartments.
Yeah, you're just taking it off the top, putting it aside. A little cushion.
It's not really our money. It's money that we would use if somebody didn't pay us, or somebody moved out and we need to pay them, because we have to pay the seller 2 months worth of mortgages if it takes us 2 months to fill a house again.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not really our money. It's kind of like a self-insurance policy. You know, if something happens and we need to have a couple extra bucks, then we can get it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, on a house this size, it's quite a bit of money, because if you take, so I told you how I got the income, right? Are we clear on that? I got the income on the mortgage calculator.
Yeah.
And I added $250 to it. So our income is $4,000.
Yep.
Times 85% is $3,400. So our income is now $3,400. Right? Minus the taxes, which is $2,900.
Yeah, but what's it per month?
Oh.
Yeah, you gotta do months.
It's $500 a month.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I just wrote down the totals here. So it's 3,400 minus the 500. Thank you, Peter. Equals 2,900. Then you're going to take away the insurance. 2,900 minus the 200 for the insurance is now 2,700.
Yeah.
So the most you could pay this seller is 2,700.
Right. There's nothing left after that.
Right. That's a break-even deal. You're not making. Well, you're making $2,700 a month. If you pay him $2,700, and it's principal-only payments, every time you make a $2,700 payment, you reduce how much you owe him by $2,700.
Yep.
Okay. But that's no fun. I don't like to have cash flow.
Yeah, that's someday. Someday I'll make every month. Someday I'm going to make 2,700 extra.
So I arbitrarily picked a number because you have to negotiate this, right? But now you have a number you can negotiate with, because you can't pay any more than $2,700. So when you're sitting in a house or you're talking to a seller and you can get $4,000 a month for the property because you used the mortgage calculator, right?
Yeah. And
you added the $250 like I did. Okay. The taxes are $500 a month. The insurance are $600 a month. That the most you could pay, the most allowable payment is $2,700 a month. Now you need to negotiate your cash flow. Now, I want to give you a bit of advice here. Cash flow is, don't lose a deal because you're trying to be piggish with the cash flow. Cash flow is just an ego thing for you to make you feel like you made a good deal so you can have some cash, some spendable cash. It's because the 2,700 is the full profit.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to figure out how much do you want to put in principal pay down and how much do you want in cash flow.
Yep.
But the total number is going to be 2,700. So in this particular case, I want to settle with the seller at 2,200. I want to make $500 a month. I would start negotiating with the seller probably at 1,800, 1,800, maybe 1,900, hoping to get up to, if he pushes me, I'll get to 2,200.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to, because what happens is if you take too much cash flow, your payments will be too low, and they'll say no.
Yeah. They want their money. It's their piggy bank, and they're
right.
They wanted 420,000 now, but if they did that after closing costs, they'd be 370, 380. They'd lose a ton of money. So they're getting a lot more by being, working with us this way.
Now, I don't want to what's the word I want?
Divert?
Divert off the topic too much. But I will tell you, honestly, this deal right here, where we are right at this moment, is how I came up with the cost to sell worksheet. This was the origin of the cost to sell worksheet, because I had to show the seller that by me paying $420,000, right? Because if you do 420,000, right, times 15%, that's $63,000 are going to play in closing costs.
Yeah.
So I'm saving him $63,000, right? Plus I'm overpaying him $20,000, so it's $83,000 he's making for doing this deal. So that's $83,000 in interest that he's getting, that he doesn't have to pay.
That's right.
So I'm not just asking him for something for nothing. I'm showing him how I'm making him $83,000.
Right. And the reason I bring that up is because when you're sitting with people, you have to show them the benefit of doing this. Like, why am I waiting? Because
right.
So without taking a long time, you have to show them the other side of the coin. If we do it the other way, look what happens. And you compare the two. Then they're happy to make that money.
Now, here's where the twist is, because I've never done this part before. So you got $500 a month in positive cash flow.
Yeah.
So here's how it works. That means in 1 year, you make $6,000 in positive cash flow. 3 years, you make $18,000. 5 years, you make $30,000.
Yeah.
Here's how it works. Your lease option buyer still owes you the $420. They don't get principal reduction on their payments. So you're taking the monthly payment of $4,000. Out of the $4,000, you're giving your seller $2,200. You're paying the taxes for $500, the insurance for $200, and you're pocketing $500. Right.
And there's what happened to the extra $250?
That's in the 4,000. That's
in the 4,000. Yeah.
Okay. So you're making $500 a month. Positive cash flow. So that means at the end of 5 years, you owe the seller $420 minus $30,000, which is $390. Right. So 420 minus $30,000, which is $500 a month times 60 months is $30,000. Your sellers owed $390,000. Your buyer is paying you $420,000. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this way wrong. I am sorry.
I was just thinking.
I'm so sorry. I'm doing this wrong.
We've been paying him $2,700 a month, right?
Yeah, no, we're paying him $2,200.
$2,200 a month, yeah.
Times 60 months.
That
means that you have a principal reduction of $132.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I totally missed that. So You got $132,000 plus $60,000. That means you have $192,000 in profit.
Mm.
You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So you bought the house. Actually, my numbers are all wrong right now, but I'm going to keep going. So you sold the house for $420,000. I'm talking about the numbers I have written down. I'm going to go over with you in a minute. I have to adjust them as we talk.
Yeah.
So you bought a house for $420,000. It was worth $380,000. You sold it for $420,000 because you did you use a house for sale, no bank qualifying, and you allow somebody to give you a 5-year lease. You give somebody a 5-year lease. They pay you $4,000 a month. You pay your owner $2,200 a month, which is principal reduction. That's $132,000 at the end of 5 years. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you have $500 a month in cash flow. That's another $30,000.
Right.
So that's
Have-
right.
Yeah, well, 5 years. 5 years it would be. I didn't bring my calculator to help you today.
Yeah, no, it's $162,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you've made $162,000
Mm-hmm.
just in the math, just doing this deal.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more. There's way more.
Mm-hmm.
There is way more. So, I want to put these. Just give me a second. I want to put these numbers in here.
Yep.
2,200.
Yeah, while Bill's doing that, the first deal I actually had was a very small condo, and it was worth 50 or 60,000. I got it for 40. No, it was worth 60. I got it for 50, and it was free and clear. So I was paying him $400 a month, no interest, and after 4 years, it was down like $20,000. Plus the cash flow I got, other benefits, reductions, things that your accountant says, and I sold to a friend of mine. And in the end, I made $40,000 plus $200 a month cash flow, which was perfect because it paid for all my letterhead, my envelopes, my stamps, overhead. Really, I started my business with a couple $100. Mary, give me $100. Why? We're starting real estate. What do you need that for? Just expenses, chump change for letters and all that. And then when I got the property covered that, and then we moved forward from that. I was actually in the condo this weekend because a friend of mine bought it, and I stopped by to see him. I saw my old condo. It was funny. It's funny going back and seeing the.
Did he do anything to it?
He just filled it with a million things. He moved into it from a slightly bigger property that he had, apartment, and his daughter's with him, and they have a nice relationship, and he's got a lot of stuff. He's a grown up, so it's fine though. It's nice. It has this balcony. And it's quiet, and there's trees. There's turkeys walking around. They have a grill downstairs. There's a pool right around the corner from them. So it's just perfect, And he actually pays less than he used to pay on his apartment rental.
Yeah, that was the best part.
Yeah. And
how much did you make total? What'd you make? Something like 40,000 or something?
Yeah. And then the couple $100 a month, just instead of coming out of my pocket. And he was happy. I was happy. And that's how it works when you do it right. Everybody's happy because you arrange the financing so everybody gets what they want. And over time, there's enough money for everybody. So it worked out great. He's happy.
Oh, my God. This is incredible. I've not done this math in a while.
You doing okay there?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the point of this. When you do all the math.
We're going to run a little bit over, but that's okay. Peter, I'm cutting you off. Let's keep moving. Is that okay?
Go ahead. No, I was just filling in for you. Go.
So here we go. Here's what happens. When you do this deal, you're going to go to a closing agent or an attorney, and you are going to have a regular closing, which means you get the title put in your name or your entity's name. You hold possession, you or your entity hold possession of title, right? And you give the seller a note.
Yep.
And use the house as the collateral. So if you don't pay, they get the house back.
Yeah, he's safe. He gets the house. Yeah. He's the bank.
So here are the numbers. Yeah, here are the numbers. So in 1 year, the cash flow in 1 year, the cash flow is $6,000. The principal reduction is $26,400. Okay, so that's $55,742. No, that's not right. That's not right. I just need to. I need to. 26,400 plus 6,000. Yeah, so it's $32,400.
Mm-hmm. And some is cash. Well, some is cash, and some is the you own that much of the house, so the equity is there that you're going to get. That's your profit coming down the road.
So that means just by what we talked about, by getting principal-only payments and talking to the seller about that and saying the right things to get that, right? Judah said, Judah, I'm going to talk about that. He's like, what's the shortest amount of time you can do these deals and still make money? I like to do them for no less than 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You can do 2 years, but just realize that the shorter you go, because you're making your money on time.
Yeah.
You're not making your money on the equity. You're making your money on the time and the payments. So you want longer times. Now, Judah, I hope I'm saying that right. I hope it's not Huda. So the point that I want to make here is when you bring up this to the seller, because the seller's going to say, well, how long do you need to do this? How much time do you want? You need to reverse the philosophy and say to him or her, well, I normally do these for 30 years. What did you have in mind?
Mm-hmm.
And then tell him I don't do anything less than 7 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do them normally for 30 years, but if I absolutely have to, I'll go down to 10 years. That's what you should say. And you will set yourself up beautifully.
Right. And the leverage is he wants $40,000 more than the value of the house. And you say, well, I can't overpay the house by $40,000 without time to catch that all up for me, right?
What I would do is, we're getting off topic here, and I want to make sure I finish the numbers. But what I would do is, if he says, well, I can't do 10 years, I can only do 5 years. Well, in that case, I can't pay you $420. I can only pay you $400.
Right. So you always give and take, which is good.
So that'll adjust him, and he'll have to decide: does he want the other $20,000 for 5 years, which is $5,000 a year, or does he want to take a shorter time?
Okay.
Hopefully, I answered that in a short time there, Judah. All right. So here's what happens because you have the deed in your name. Well, I do have principal reduction here. What am I doing?
Yeah, that's the $26,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I have the deed in my name, I'm also going to get depreciation. The government is going to allow me to write off this property. You get 27 and a half years, which is 3.64% per year write-off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The depreciation for 1 year is $3,210. For 3 years is $9,631. For 5 years, it's $16,052.
Which means you don't pay that on your taxes when it's time to pay. They deduct that. So you save all that. So you make it by saving it.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to write in my lease to my buyer appreciation. Right? So that means average appreciation for the last 100 years is 3%. So I use 3%. I was using 6% for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Peter, you've brought up this question, which I don't want to get into this because I want to make sure we cover all the numbers. But usually when I write my leases, which I'm going to change, but what I used to do is I would tell them, if you pay me in the first 12 months, you can pay the $420.
Mm-hmm.
On month 13, I'm going to add 0.25% per month in appreciation, which is 3% a year.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is reverse that because you keep asking me, well, how do you use appreciation? Because you don't give them the appreciation the first year. You don't get appreciation the first year. Yeah,
it's after the 13th month. So what do you think?
So here's what we're going to do. we're going to write them with a 0.25% appreciation. And I'm going to tell them if they pay us before the 12 months, we'll wipe out the appreciation and take less money.
I got it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you add a 0.25%, if you just add that one sentence to your document, which it's in my option knock document, I talk about all the time how my documents make you money, right? And they're worth the money. I think I sell my documents for a couple grand or something like that. They're way worth their money. I mean, one of the documents in there I paid $3,500 for. Another one I paid $6,000 for. I mean, there's just documents, and that's at flippinghousesforrookies.com. You can go buy all the documents, right? My point is 1 year is 12.6. All you do is add one sentence saying a 0.25% per month. So we're appreciating a 0.25% per month, right? 3 years is $37,800. And 5 years is $63,000.
Mm.
Okay.
Yep.
For adding one sentence to the option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen you do it. We've had conversations. You did what? And you got to keep how much money on that property? Yep. But these are all incentive for them to go get the mortgage and cash everybody out.
Yeah, you're not ripping anybody off.
Because no, the properties do go. Bill has a property right now. I think you bought it for 200 or 250. It's worth 450,000 now. And if you don't add that in, the guy buys it for 200 something, like 5, 6 years later, and you lose 100,000 appreciation.
I bought that property for 110,000. I borrowed 125. I made between the down payment money and the money from my lender, I made $17,000 the first month.
And the sell price to the seller, what was that? 200?
240.
Yeah. So you
will
get
worth 450.
Exactly. So you would have sold it for 250, and if you didn't put that in, the house worth 450, you'd be selling for 240 and screwing yourself 210. That's not right.
Here's the most important thing that nobody ever talks about: is I set and forget my properties. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he was on a 2-year lease. He's been in the property for 5 years. So guess what? There's a clause in the lease that says, "Oh yeah, by the way, if the 2 years come and we don't write a new lease, you could go month to month, predicated on this lease's rules."
Yeah.
So that means the lease and the option stay in place, right?
Yeah.
And that also means that the 0.25% still keeps going. So when he asked for a payoff last year, I had 5 years for him, I did 0.5% per month. So it's 6% a year.
Mm.
So he owed something like 285, not 240.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Now, let's have a drum roll, please. So by adding all these numbers up, everything I explained to you today, which is your principal pay down, which is your cash flow, your depreciation, and your appreciation, 1 year, this deal is worth to you in 1 year $55,742. In 3 years, it's worth $167,228. In 5 years, it's worth $278,714. Okay, so my question to you is, where are you going to go work for 5 or 10 hours and make $278,000? Let's say you're a little bit slow at the draw and it takes you 40 hours.
Oh, it's terrible. I wouldn't do it.
Or 80 hours.
I'm not doing it. No, forget it. Ain't worth it. Nope.
So let me see here. I want to do one more number before we go. Oh my God, this is incredible when I do these numbers. It gets me motivated, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny when I think of the little condo deal that I did. I really have no idea how much I really made, because you only look at one number at a time, and you're doing all the numbers collected, so you see the full thing. I couldn't see that because it happened at the accountant once a year. I don't know. The wife is handing papers back and forth. They're talking. All I know is we're done. I go for lunch. But all that actually happened, and I just, looking in retrospect, I couldn't tell you how much I really make. Now that I know
That's how I
this,
figure all this out.
yeah,
And
now we pay better attention to it.
So here we go. So that means if you did one deal a year for 5 years, that would be 5 houses.
Mm-hmm.
5 houses. That would be at the end of 5 years, you will make $278,000 per year with 5 houses, right? And you'll have made, well, let's just do it this way. At the end of 5 years, if you did one house per year for 5 years, you'll have made $1,393,570. $1,393,000. Let's just call it $1.4 million.
Sure.
So here's my question. What are you doing in your life? What's in your life that is stopping you from doing real estate? What kind of bullcrap story are you telling yourself? Is it your parents take up too much of your time? You got to take care of your parents. Do you have kids? Do you have a job? Like, do you have a job? Judo's asking me how we find these deals. So the answer, Judo, is we have software. It's called Creative REI Reply. You should go there and look at it. Okay. If you click on the link in the description today, it has some language in that as well. You can find out more from the link in the description. Okay. But we use Creative REI Reply to find our deals. It's all automated. It's a creative real estate system in a box. What are you doing in life that's actually stopping you from making $1.4 million, aka $55,742 a year? What are you doing? What's wrong with your life that you can't make a phone call a day to find this deal? And I'm being hypothetical. I mean, I'm talking about one deal a month.
A year.
I'm sorry, one deal a year. I'm sorry. Yeah. One deal a year. Mm-hmm. If you did 2 deals a year, that's $3 million. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, this is not equity. This is not pretend money. This is money in your pocket. Hit National Bank money. Mm-hmm. This is live money, real money to you. Now, I understand that, the depreciation is a tax write-off and the appreciation is a markup. But even so, what about all the rest of it?
Yeah, but those happen. And this is the problem with this. You don't notice those happen because, hey, it's going to be tax season. We love going to see our accountant because things go pretty good when you're done. Like, I don't know anything. I owe what? It's ridiculous. Yep. And that's money you keep in your pocket. That's in your tax account. Maybe I have to pay this or that. And you don't. And when you sell the house, then you get all the equity at the end. It's like,
what excuse are you making? Yeah, what excuse are you making right now that you don't wake up in the morning and say, I need to make an offer? An offer a day keeps the debt away. A bill isn't. But how much is it costing you to not do a deal? How much money is that? Why are you not doing a deal? What excuse are you telling yourself? And by the way, you're not going to call it an excuse. You're going to call it a problem. And you've convinced yourself it's real. And you've convinced yourself that your days go by and you don't even think about creative real estate. Your days go by, sometimes days, maybe sometimes weeks go by and you forget about it because you're so busy with traffic and grocery shopping and taking care of your parents or taking care of your kids or taking care of your spouse or whatever. You're telling me you can't make one 15-minute phone call a day to find this deal? Now, I'm not saying you're going to find it the first day. I'm not even saying you're going to find it the first month. But you need one a year. One a year. One a year. So, Judah, I don't accept that. He said, fear that I won't be able to find the option buyers. Well, if that's the case, then you should sign an option agreement with your seller until you can find your buyer and then put this transaction together. It costs you $10 to write an option, $1. You say to the seller, I'm going to go find your buyer. When I find your buyer, I'm going to put this deal together. So if you never find a buyer, you don't put the deal together. You're not responsible for the payment. See, this is what I'm talking about, Peter. See, I'm picking on Judah right now because he thinks that's a legitimate reason to not call a seller. He thinks that's a legitimate. He has not gone out there to figure out that you could do it a different way. I just, in 30 seconds, just told you how to solve it. You find this buyer. He's willing to do this. You sign an option agreement with them for 90 days. Mm-hmm. An option agreement. An option agreement means you had the right to buy, but not the obligation to buy. Mm-hmm. You sign an option agreement with them. You go find your buyer. When you find your buyer that's willing to do all this, you put the deal together. You have no risk at all. The fear in your mind is your own crap because you didn't get past that to even try to solve the solution. You thought the fear was real. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's imagined. But you thought it was real, and it stopped you from making $1.4 million in the next 5 years. Because you actually believe that it's fear. It's not fear. It's ignorance.
Yeah, this is where Ron LeGrand's line, you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So, Judah, I would say this, and this is for everybody. We're not picking on Judah particularly, but I have a business, and every time something goes stupid, I write a new policy. You pay me in advance, you give me deposits, you don't get your money back, you don't show up. Real estate, everything that could go wrong, we have a solution for, so we're not on the hook. You know, as much as possible. There's no guarantee of anything in the world, but everything is protected. You see?
He even has an acronym for it. False evidence appearing real. He even knows it.
Yeah. Well, you just need to have the solutions for the things you're worrying about. So instead of worrying about it, the thing is, okay, what if? What do I do so that doesn't happen? Oh, you do this instead. The best thing to do is just ask the question, how do I avoid such and such problem? What do you guys do? And then somebody will tell you, because it's all been figured out so we don't get at the short end of the stick and wind up in trouble. We protect ourselves. But what's a realtor do? What's a realtor do? Does he buy the house and then sell it to somebody? He's just sitting in the middle. And that's what we're doing if we're a little.
He doesn't do a transaction until he finds the buyer first.
So we have those. There's different kinds of deals. This is one deal Bill's talking about. You can still do these. Just do the option first. Just stay in the middle until it's safe. And then close the deal.
When you find your buyer and you know what you have on the other end and you don't have to worry about being stuck, then you close the deal. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
Yep. Right. I bought my condo this way. I just rented it. I just kept it and rented it because it was such a good deal. I just wanted to hang out to it for a while. And then I sold it later. I didn't even do this deal with it at first. I just collected rent, made money, and then sold it.
He asked if I mentor. Yes, I have a coaching program. Actually, I have 2 slots open right now. If you go to flippinghouses4rookies.com and you go to the top of the page where it says courses, you'll see the coaching thing in there. Or just go to support and send me a support ticket with your phone number, and I'll give you a call and we can talk about it. Here's the point. What are you doing in your life that you can't make one phone call? Because this is my ending statement. You don't need massive education. You need massive action. I promise you that I get kudos all the time about that I'm a smart guy. And I don't like that because I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm a smart guy. I am an experienced guy. And I've noticed a lot of things in my experiences of my 20, 25 plus years, 30 years. The only reason why I made it is because I was a dumbass and did what my coaches told me to do. And you know what every single one of those coaches told me to do, Peter?
What?
Get on the phone and talk to a seller.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going to learn all this. When you talk to sellers. And I'm so disappointed because I actually have I haven't sold it probably a year, but I have in Flipping Houses for Rookies. I sold a system that I named wrong. It's called being the reluctant buyer.
Mm.
It was a system that I used that put you into a house, and it took you step by step so you can learn from your seller, because your seller is the one that's going to pay you this money. So you need to go understand that seller and how they react and how they ask questions and how they respond to your questions. That is your education. Your education is to spend time with your sellers and spend time with your buyers. And the absolute fearless way to do that is to sign an option agreement, which means an obligation, but not a commitment. Or
it's the right to sell.
The right to sell and not the obligation. That's why I said it backwards.
Yeah, you're not stuck.
So you're not stuck. So you could go find a seller, sign an option agreement, go find a buyer, put the deal together, and still, that's real estate, man. Like Peter says, that's how the realtors do it. Everybody expects that to happen.
Did the house sell? No. Well, that's too bad. And
Nobody's
surprised. What happened? I don't know. I'll try later. I'll fix the house up a little. I'll try in the spring.
Or the realtor was no good. I'm going to get another one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we're at 1 hour, 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes over as usual. I want to thank everybody for your time. Hopefully I did not fall short of any of my promises today on today's podcast. Hopefully it opened your eyes up and you could see that that there are ways out there to do deals that most people don't talk about, right? Because it's too complicated. It's easy to teach how to do wholesale deals.
Yeah.
It's easy to teach how to wholesale lease options. It's not easy to teach how to do a owner finance deal like we just talked about today. It's not easy to teach because there's a lot of numbers and there's a lot of movement, and that most people don't want to teach that. So make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you like us wherever you're watching us or listening to us, and leave some sort of a comment, whether you like this or not. Judah, I don't do novations. Novations are trouble. I don't believe in them. Novations are not a good thing. Lastly, make sure you, if you have any questions and you need us, you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side is a support ticket, and you can send me a support ticket if you have a question for myself or Peter, or if you're interested in coaching or the software or anything like that, just let me know and I will hook you up. Okay? Thanks so much. Have an awesome, awesome week, and we'll speak at you at episode number 391. Over now.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.